Now, like any good RPG, reckoning begins with character creation. We have several different options for that. You'll see some of those now. So the first call to make is what race you want to be. We have 4 different races to choose from. 2 kinds of human, the Almain and the Varani, who hail from different lands and have different benefits. And the Losafar and Dotlafar, light elves and dark elves, respectively. Now, as you choose your race, obviously there's the aesthetic differences, but also you get a head start to some of your non-combat skills, something appropriate to that class. Now, having chosen your race, you choose your gender, male or female. This is purely an aesthetic choice. It doesn't change stats or anything like that, although there is some dialogue in the game that will vary based on your gender. Having chosen that, we then pick our patron god. Your patron god gives you a set of combat bonuses that'll last throughout the course of the game. They're small, but they do let you give a way to kind of flavor your character a little bit more right out of the game. Having chosen those things, we've built kind of the systemic side of our character. Now we get to customize his or her appearance. Now we have several presets for each character you can choose from that are crafted to look cool. If you don't want to use one of those, you can go a step further and customize them on a specific level, changing face shape, eyeshadow, the intensity of your stubble. Always fun. That's intense stubble. That's great. Also, a number of hair options: facial hair, hair in your head, the eyebrows as well. You can change your own colors and darkness and all that. And finally, accessories, where you can do different facial attachments like nose rings, earrings, etc., as well as tattoos. We have 30-some tattoos. You can do different opacities and colors and all that. Oh, yeah.
Intensity.
You can actually make curves, but I'm not going to tell you the combination you have to do. We also have this fun randomize feature, which we really enjoyed when we put this in because it was supposed to be just a little usability thing, but it ended up being fun in and of itself. You just hit a button and it gives you a whole different combination of traits. So in a hurry, you can create something really wild. And if you find something that's cool and not quite what you want, you can customize it from there. We picked our swank character. We're going to jump into the game itself.
Beautiful.
Now, normally, at this point in the game, you're starting off, you've seen a cinematic that sort of sets the stage for where we're at and what's going on. Since you've not seen that here, I'll sort of catch you up on what's happening. Now, Reckoning is set within the world of Amalur in that 10,000-year history that R.A. wrote in a very specific time, a time called the Age of Arcana. The reason for that is that magic is freshly returning to the world after a long absence. This has a lot of different factors in the story. Now, amidst this magic coming back, there is an epic war happening between a group of unseelie fae, an immortal race called the Tuatha, and the mortal races of men and elves. And in the chaos of this war, you, the player character, have died. So yes, from the very beginning of the game, from the outset, you're already dead. It's very sad.
Nice.
Fortunately, it doesn't end there. The game begins with you hacking, coughing, and crawling your way out of a pile of corpses. You get to the ground, retch, kind of wobble to your feet, and find yourself in this strange cavern. You don't know who you are, you don't know how you died, and you certainly don't know how you came back. So the game begins with a number of personal mysteries for you to pursue, like tying it to you on a very personal level because it's stuff about you, and then leading you into the main quest from there. Here in just a moment, we're going to introduce you to one of those characters in the main quest, the architect of our resurrection, Homerus Hughes.
You there, you! What are you doing down here? You don't belong. Wait a moment. No, it can't be. Come closer so I can see you. Over here. Why, it's true. But how? The lens? The new configuration? Perhaps? No, what am I thinking? No time for that now. We've got to get you out of there. You need to arm yourself. Quickly, check that body over there for a weapon. No time for questions. Go! Excellent, excellent. Through the door now. I'll meet you on the other side of the gate. Stay alert. We're not the only ones in here, I'm afraid.
This is a small thing, but I have to say it. The voice you've just been hearing, Homerus Hughes, if any of you played Baldur's Gate 2, and I'm really hoping a lot of you did, it's the same guy that did Minsk.
Awesome.
He's awesome. Jim Cummings is in. Anyway, so we've just looted the sword, and this is the beginning of the tutorial dungeon. At this point of the game, normally we're teaching you how to loot things, how to equip, how to swing your weapon. We're turning that off for the purposes of this demo. Now, as we move forward, you may notice that Homerus Hughes back there, the gnome on the scaffold, he seemed a little surprised to see us. There's a good reason for that. For the last decade, he's been working on this machine, this magical apparatus you see up ahead, It's called the Well of Souls, and it features prominently throughout the Kingdoms of Amalur IP. Now, the Well of Souls is a resurrection machine, and despite all these years working on it and a very large stack of corpses that you saw back there, it's never actually worked. That is, of course, until now. For us, the base of the Well of Souls isn't a very safe place. Some of Hugh's earlier experiments, skeletal constructs called the Fair Gorda, are roaming the area. Now here in just a moment, you're going to see your first kind of taste of the combat in Reckoning. This is our combat in its most simplistic form, with just one weapon, which you can use with just one button. Now, Joe can pound out that button and get a base attack chain, or he can vary up his timing. If he delays between attacks, he'll get a different set of attacks, like a sword swing, sort of an uppercut that'll actually launch enemies into the air and let him juggle. It's really easy to use, very fast, very fluid. Hit a button, get an instant result, and you'll see that now.
Look out, it's just as I feared. There's only one of them though, shouldn't be too much trouble. Well done, but stay alert. You'll rarely find just one of them. Social creatures, actually. You'll need to find your way to the upper levels. There's a passage to your right. That should take you through the supply rooms and into the tunnels.
Now, as Joe boots this Fair Gorda, you see he has some nice leather armor on him. There's a couple things to point out here. One, which you're seeing only a tiny sample of here, is the loot system in Reckoning. We have a full slot machine Diablo-style loot system in Reckoning that can generate over 2 million pieces of loot. We have different quality tiers, material types, affixes, so you can have things like a flaming sword of destruction, all that kind of thing, or of the wombat, or whatever. Very, very cool. So you generate tons and tons of loot. It's just one more thing that keeps you playing the game. It's that addicting treadmill of getting new stuff. We also have hundreds, I think it's actually maybe over 1,000, at least hundreds of handcrafted unique items, well, with even more impressive bonuses, as well as collectible armor sets, where as you get more pieces from the set, you get a bigger and bigger bonus. So that's the loot system itself. Separately, there's the actual UI we're looking at here. And this is interesting for some design reasons. Now, you can look at individual items here. You can compare them with what you have equipped directly from the loot UI. You don't have to go into your inventory for that. And then you can equip them directly from the loot UI without having to actually go into your inventory. Also, if you find some items that you don't care for, you can throw them into your junk pile right from here. Your junk pile, the next time you go to a merchant, with a single button press, you can sell all that off. Just one button press, it's gone. Now, expect that to get an applause. RPG's inventory is very, very important. And some players really like managing their inventory. They like going to that screen, min-maxing exactly the right gear for their character, making sure I've got my chance to crit here, my crit damage percentage there, just, working all that out. You can absolutely do that in Reckoning. I kind of lean that way myself. But a lot of other players, they don't want to do that. They want to just, hey, give me the cool stuff, let me go back to killing things. We let you have the best of both worlds with this UI, so we're big fans. So now, having fully equipped leather armor off the Fair Gorda, we're going to proceed. Now, one thing to pay attention to as we walk a little bit further down this hallway and into the next room is the attention to detail in the environment. Even here, indoors in a dungeon, our environment artists, level designers, have done an amazing job crafting ridiculous amounts of small detail into every corner of the world, including places that, frankly, you're not likely to look, like up higher in the walls. Honestly, we ran through this demo 5 or 6 times before noticing the large stone head in the background. Just kind of blends in. Just little things like that help give the world texture and make it feel more real.
That's the way. You're in the main supply room. Grab what you can from the surface, then keep moving.
here, Joe's going to loot and equip a kite shield. A kite shield is the most basic sort of defensive mechanism in the game, sort of suited for warriors. And it's going to add a couple new elements to our combat. Well, actually 3 new elements. First, it's going to add blocking, obviously, the shield. Second, it's going to add parrying. And a parry, if you're not familiar with action games, is like a timed block. So as your attack's incoming from an enemy, you block right at that last minute, and boom, you can parry him, and you'll stun him, do a little bit of extra damage. Another thing it's going to add, which you'll notice, is that if Joe attacks with his sword after parrying, he does a totally different attack chain, which is actually a more damaging chain than his normal attacks. We'll see that now.
We're in! I thought it was just gnomes down here. The job was to find everything, gnome or otherwise.
One of our outdoor areas, a zone called Dalutarth. Welcome to Dalutarth. So, Dalutarth is the first major zone you'll get to in the game, of 5 massive outdoor zones that are all open for exploration. There's no load screens or anything like that. You can just go wherever you want. Dalutarth, there's a few things to point out here. First, it's very, very pretty. And there's a reason for this. It's not just that we like to make pretty things, although that too, but also some good design reasons. One of those is that, again, it's the first zone you come to after the tutorial. So we want to make the world feel warm and welcoming and magical. You notice there's like little blue sprites flitting about us as we walk through the world, part of the whole Age of Arcana bit. And making you feel like a place you want to explore. And although dangers do abound in Dalutarth, it is comparably safer than the rest of the world and gives you kind of a nice intro to the game. Another thing about it, which is pretty cool, is sort of where RA is coming in. RA has told us many times it's an RPG. So you know as a player, sooner or later, somebody's going to walk up to you and they're going to ask you to save the world. And when that happens, you have to actually want to save the world. And what he has said over and over is, we need to make Amalur a world worth defending. And Dalutarth is an example of how we do that, making this the sort of place that you actually want to save the world.
That's really cool.
Now, another thing you'll notice here, we are still a warrior-esque character, but we're decked out very differently than we were before. We have much fancier armor. This is cool. This is actually consecrated to Theurge, the war god. Very cool. And an azurite longsword on our back. In addition to that sword, we also have a very large hammer. Like so. Now, in the tutorial earlier, you saw the most basic form of the combat, with just one weapon. That's just we're kind of easing you into the game, teaching you how it works. For the majority of the game, though, you actually have 2 weapons. You can slot whatever you want into those 2 weapon slots, and you can seamlessly switch between them, even mid-attack chain, which you can see Joe doing here, and that's the combo.
That's awesome.
There's no button to switch off. There's no, well, let me go to my right hand and now use my right hand weapon. No. On the Xbox controller, it's X for your primary weapon, Y for your secondary. Happens right now. So that's pretty cool. Also, what you're going to see in the fights ahead are some special combo attacks. And we have to be careful when we use the word combo, because it means something a little different in Reckoning than it does in, say, an action game. We never, ever, ever force you to memorize button combos. You will not do XX. One thing that we've had to drill home time and time again is that we're ultimately not an action game. We are a hardcore RPG that has action combat, and it's a very different thing, and the combos are an example of how it's different. Everything that you see, the special attacks that Joe's going to do throughout the course of the demo, including the ones you've already seen, they're contextual. I attack after I roll. I attack after I block. I attack after I parry. I attack simply by holding the button down. They're all really easy to discover, really easy to perform. You don't really need to memorize them. And we'll see more of those throughout the course of the demo. Now, as we move forward, we're going to see an example of the warrior in action, along with some of the warrior's magic abilities, because in the Age of Arcana, even a warrior has access to magic.
Ridiculous. Oh my god.
Sadistic bastard. You may have noticed a moment in that combat where Joe flew into the air and a weapon magically coalesced in the air and then he crushed a boggart into tiny little pieces. It's subtle, but it was there. That's something called a fate shift kill, which feeds into a different reward mechanism, a whole different system that unfortunately the marketing folks won't let us talk about yet, but you will hear more about that down the road. For future reference, it's a fate shift kill. Yeah. Now, as we move down the hill a little bit here toward Loch Dyden in the village of Dyden, we'll talk a little bit about the world. As I mentioned, this is Delantar, one of those 5 major outdoor zones, each of which is ridiculously huge.
Goldshire.
And each of which has a totally different art style, look, and feel, and biome for that matter, ranging from arid deserts to dank swamps, and of course the enchanted forest that is Delantar. Like any good open world game, we do a few kind of world simulation-y things to make the world feel alive, living and breathing, which is something Ken Rolston really pushes hard. An example of that is having a day-night cycle show up here.
What? What is going on?
Now, the day-night cycle isn't just aesthetic. We also have NPC scheduling. So NPCs have their whole cycle of what they do over the course of a day, cleaning up the bar in the tavern, dancing at night, maybe in the streets, it varies. But they all have their things they do when they're not busy handing you quests. So that changes over the course of time of day. We also have a few systemic outputs, like we have some areas of the game where certain monsters will only spawn at night. We have a weapon which by day is a flaming weapon and at night does ice. So things like that. It's pretty cool. Awesome. So now here as we walk into this village, you know what you expect from a village or a city in an RPG, and we have those things. It's a place you can go to rest, relax, recuperate, to buy new gear, to sell your old gear with one button press. Yeah.
Woo!
To buy new gear, sell your gear, to do crafting, to visit various service providers. And although this demo, as you've seen and will continue to see, is mostly focused on combat, we do want to show you at least a little bit of one of those systems now. This is one of our 3 crafting systems. It's called Sagecraft, alongside alchemy and blacksmithing, which is the other 2. Sagecraft lets you do a few different things. One of those things is socketing magical gems into your weapons and armor. It also lets you create your own gems from scratch using these crystalline shards you find throughout the world. Now, Joe conveniently has a gem of combustion in his inventory, so he's going to socket that into his longsword. And voila, now we have a flaming longsword.
Oh my god, that's so amazing.
Now you can see that immediately the particle effects for that are automatically updated in addition to the extra damage it's doing. And all the special attacks also change. And yes, this will set enemies on fire. And fun fact, the boggarts that we were fighting earlier, they're made of wood. If you set them on fire, they panic and would scream.
Nice.
So, move forward here. This is a good time to talk about Ken Rolston's influence on the game. We have this nice cobblestone path leading off ahead of us, kind of off into the wilderness. And if we follow that, generally speaking, it's going to lead you to the next big moment that the designers want you to see. And we're designers, so yes, we do want you to see it. But you don't have to go that way. It is an open world game. There are countless paths and even places there aren't paths where you can go off the rails and find something cool. Ken often says that players want to wander into the weeds, and so we let you do that, and in fact, we encourage it. When you wander off, like on this deer path that we're doing through this giant hollow log, you'll often find it's some sort of reward. You'll find a cool vista you can see that wouldn't have been obvious from the main road. You'll find a hidden treasure cache. You'll find a rare reagent you can harvest for alchemy. In this particular case, wandering off the beaten path is going to lead us to a monster type we haven't seen before. A couple of them, actually. One of them, you see up ahead, is a snake-like wild fey creature called the Banshee. Really nasty. She can vomit up these fleshy pods that hit the ground, and after a second, they'll spawn out mergans, which are sort of her drones. Now, because of the way this fight works, it's really sort of interesting to demonstrate here. A lot of our enemies in Reckoning work together in some sort of cooperative way. For instance, the boggarts you saw earlier, you may have noticed, although Joe killed them awfully fast, so maybe not. Hopefully you noticed that they will actually surround you in the middle of a fight and try to flank you. So one of them will keep you busy while another one rolls in and whacks you in the back. These guys work together in different ways. They actually have a formal group attack they can do, where the Banshee will charge up lightning. The Mergans all hold their tridents up in the air, and you'll see this just in a moment, and lightning arcs between them, and then kaboom, she throws a high damage blast at you, or technically they do. Because of this, depending on your character build, your gear loadout, there's several different tactical ways you can approach that combat. For instance, if you're a pure melee warrior like Joe is here, you can take a lot of damage. So you might just want to, just wade in there with your big kite shield, deal with the Merc and ignore them and just focus on the Banshee until she's down. They can't do that group attack anymore. Or let's say you're a mage who focuses on AoE attacks, you might want to stay back from the Merc and kind of dance around, and you'll see some of that mage combat later, and use their AoEs to keep them interrupted so they can't get off the lightning attack. We'll see an example of the warrior approach here now.
That is disgusting.